have David joining me today, and we had a guest who had some family emergency stuff and couldn't join us for the original. So we decided to go this route and share a little bit about our journey and the questions we get asked a lot, as well as some of the both difficulties and joys of being a business owner, having a spouse who uh, started off not liking the business and now is actually part of it.
Yep, yep. Yep, for sure.
If you are here, drop into the chat where you're coming in from and okay, all right, just double checking because I'm not getting the comments on Restream. So I want to make sure if you're here, I want to be able to see your comments. So I've got my LinkedIn page pulled up over here. So if you're here, let us know where you're coming in from. Let us know that if you're a business owner where your spouse is also a traditional employee or your partner and maybe does or doesn't support your business, or are you one of those power couples and both of you are in the business or have individual businesses? Let us know if you're here. And we got Miss Beth. And Beth, we know that you're building a business and your hubby is in traditional work. So this is going to be a interesting one for your point of view as well, I would think, and thoughts coming from you. I suspect there's already been with you working remotely from home all these years. There's been some differences as well. So what do you do in your business when your partner is not quite in it with you? We're going to dive into topics like that and just talk about our entrepreneur journey and how we got into things. David, would you like to introduce yourself real quick for everybody who doesn't know you?
Well, I'm David Medina. I'm obviously married to Heidi Medina, and I've been working with you for the past year as doing a little bit of everything, from becoming an entrepreneur, business owner. So it's been kind of a journey for me, as you know. It's been probably about 7 years of trying to get me to come on board, basically, and me kicking and screaming the whole way through. I feel like nowadays I'm getting better with how all this works. So, but I used to work in oil and gas and as a designer, and now I'm working here in Portugal with you.
Yes, we're gonna try not to focus too much on the kicking and screaming. It wasn't really about you coming on into working on the actual business. It was more just being supportive of the fact that I was a business owner.
Well, yeah, but to really understand what that means is completely different. I mean,
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So yes.
Yeah, so David and I we started out our journey of dating and everything back in late 2008. And at that point, I was working a corporate job. That was when I had moved to Colorado and started over from North Carolina and a whole brand new life and everything else. And it was late 2008 recession. I think it was like October or something when I got laid off.
Yep, it was. Yeah.
And so that was the recession where a lot of people were laid off. So I put in applications for a while. I mean, for months and hundreds of applications. And then before we knew it, David ended up laid off before the end of it all. And I didn't work for me. So that was when I went back into business and started a cleaning business. That was the first business I had with David.
That is true. And back then was just kind of like, it was your business. It wasn't my business. It was your business.
Yeah. Yes, it was. And you ended up going back to work again as soon as everything opened back up and stuff. But yeah, so that's when I started that would be business number 3. Right. And I started a cleaning business in the middle of a recession when nobody said they would pay for luxury services of someone they could clean their own homes. Well, they did. And it worked out really well. And I actually kept that business all the way through, I think, until the next time oil and gas tanked and you were laid off again, because then you worked with me for a little while. And right at the end.
Yeah, it was right at the end. Yeah, exactly.
Like 4 years later.
Yeah, 4 years later, I helped you out, and then of course you broke your leg, and that I had to really step up then, and I had to take ownership of that. But at the same time, it kind of just fell off the wayside because I didn't take full ownership of that business. So, but nowadays, I would just have a different mindset now if I just understood what that really meant. And I think the employee versus entrepreneur, business owner is just completely different mindset. And so I wish I had that back then, and we would have had probably a pretty good cleaning business.
I'm kind of glad we don't. We have a location independence business now.
That's true too. Yes, which is a lot better. Yes.
8. And the universe was looking out after us on that one, that we were going to get to travel and see the world and actually be able to make money from anywhere in the world with the internet. So we wouldn't have been able to do that. So that I am perfectly okay with. So I was going to talk a little bit about it. I mean, it was a little hard for me. Just talking about, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and even with my first husband, we built a business and everything. So it was a big adjustment for me for having a partner, first a partner, because David and I dated for like 3 years before we got married. And then even throughout the marriage, me having a business and being a business owner was quite a contention for a while. I mean, pretty much anybody here building a business, you know that it takes a little while, and it takes some faith, even whenever things aren't happening exactly. I mean, you trust they're happening, you know they're going on, even though you're not seeing things fully. And so it was some contention quite a bit there, and it was definitely an adjustment for me having a partner who didn't support the idea of me doing that. I mean, it was a constant for a while, to be perfectly honest. Get a job, get a job, get a job. But that was coming from someone who had been working in corporate. I always joke, I call him the corporate drone, because he had been in corporate for well over 25 years. So obviously a massive adjustment. And Beth, you're probably going to be able to relate to this too, because you've been in the corporate world for a while as well. But for me, corporate world was, I worked in it only about 3 or 4 years total, even though it was in corporate management. So I got that side of the view as well. But it was quite a deal not having for a long time a supportive partner, and then having to hold space for him and being able to hear him and understand his fears. And I mean, I think today things have changed a lot more, where job security isn't what it used to be, but back then it was much more like more career thing. You stayed in a company, you worked through, and you maxed out your benefits and 401ks and all that stuff. But
yeah,
there was much more fear based around it, right?
Well, no, it wasn't more fear-based. It was just more, no, it wasn't about that. It was more about just understanding the dynamics. It's completely different dynamics. Now, if everybody actually took as their employee job as a business owner, it would just change the dynamics of every company out there. I think it would just be like, holy moly. Everybody's taking ownership of just their little part as a business owner. It would just really change how a corporation would function. And I wish I had that kind of knowledge back then. But, being open to it too, as well, because we've been together since 2008. So hello, you know what? I'm a slow learner. So.
I rubbed off on him, guys. I brought him over to the dark side.
Right. Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's really kind of like that, because you don't really understand what is involved and going through all the peaks and valleys and emotions of being your own boss. I mean, really being your own boss, and you have to get the money in and everything else. It's completely different.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure. I
Right.
mean, you're responsible for everything. You're responsible for showing up. You got to
Yeah.
keep yourself motivated. You got to keep yourself there. I mean, ups, downs, whatever, you're the one doing it. And see, we have Sarah Brown here from France.
Oh, great.
And
Oh, very nice.
yes, and Miss Beth said, yeah, transitioning to business owner from well-paid traditional employment comes with guilt. It does. It really does. Now, like my husband has the main income, whereas for 20 years I made more money than him. Beth, I fully feel you on this one because this was my aspect as well. I am sure that also causes some concerns on his part. I was not able to take on the slack as he has to take on a new job, or if he has to take on a new job. Yeah, I get it. And that was the hard part. I'm going to be honest, guys. It was a hard part for me when I got laid off in the recession and then building a new business with David being the primary income. And I have been independently earning money, I mean, since I was my mid-teens. So even through school, I was earning my pocket money, my everything through the business
Wow.
my sister and I started. So, and then I went into adulthood. The first, I think from 18 to 21, I actually worked for another company. And then before I started my own landscape company at that point. And so here I was, primary money maker, had built a multi six-figure business. And even when I met David, even in my corporate job, I was making about twice as much money as he was. And all of a sudden, I got laid off in the recession, and my cleaning business took a minute to take off.
Right.
And so David was bringing in the money. And so it took a little while of becoming okay for me to be not the primary. So I get you on that, Beth. As
Yeah.
I was building the business, and he had the really good job at that point with the corporate position, which paid off and everything like that. And so that was hard for an independent person who had been making money since my mid-teens to rely on you for a little while. And then now, of course, we're back switched where the money's coming from me and you're relying on me, which I don't think you've ever really fully been in that position, right?
No, this is brand new for me. So that's part of that emotional, kind of roadblock, or not roadblock, but speed bump that is going on because it's brand new. I mean, yeah, it's brand new to be in this position, and so it's been kind of I'd like to say I've handled it with grace, but I know I haven't. And so, I mean, and that's part of the kicking and screaming I talked about earlier. So,
I
so
will not say we have not had screaming fights at some points
yeah,
because we
yeah,
have, as unhealthy as that sounds.
yeah. There's been
Yeah, but
moments of that. Yes,
so
for sure.
communication is one of the big ways we've gotten through things, and just having to learn how to communicate in a way, because we came from two different understandings. I mean, I come from the background of being an entrepreneur and already knowing this stuff. You come from the traditional. So we had couples therapy. We
Yeah,
had a lot of things to learn to communicate so that we could
yeah.
make it in our relationship even through this, much less make it with a business together.
Yeah, those were tough. Those were a few tough times for me to actually understand how to communicate instead of just my way or the highway kind of attitude. Um, yeah, it was also, yeah. Oh, you've got something. Tell me, you got something
I was
there.
gonna laugh, and I have oldest syndrome, guys. I'm so used to, I'm the oldest of five, and not only that, I've been the boss for a long time, making decisions in my own company too. So I had my side of things where I'm just used to being able to get things done and listen, get it done, tell you how to do it, and you do it and get it there and teach people how to do things. It's not that I can train people, but David was very set about it. Let's be honest, you were very set not to learn the certain things.
Well, what so what happens when a oldest child and only child walk into a bar? I mean, let's be honest. That's what happened here. I mean, I'm only child and you're the oldest, so let's just Yeah, I'm sure there's no fireworks going on there. So that, I mean, that was the mentality, and that's been kind of, that was kind of the mentality at the beginning. And I'm still working on some things. I'm still not quite there yet, but I am working on them. And um,
We are works in progress. Sarah says she's loving how real this is. Yeah, we said we were going to get honest with this today, Sarah. We were going to share all the details on it and everything. But yes, and don't be afraid if you are in relationships and you are into places like this with building a business is hard. It's hard with just one person in it and the other person in a traditional job or not working. And then it is hard having both people in the business as well and learning to, I mean, for us, because normally I'd be just like with David, and he's learning to take over what his parts are. We're really embracing his strengths, and he's taking over certain parts of the business, like running behind the scenes and stuff like that. And it's been really incredible for me, especially during our events. Because now, used to, I ran our events, or I'd grab a friend who would come along and do some of the behind the scenes stuff with me here than there. But now, like, I don't have to worry about letting people in on Zoom. I can just worry about showing up, because David's taken over that and data tracking and stuff behind the scenes, which has really taken a lot off of me. Plus, he handles our graphics, our video, and he's handling some of the operations behind the scenes too. So I told him, he's like, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, you come in, let's figure out your strengths, and you take ownership of that, so that we each, for us, I think it's really working with each of us having our separate parts of the business.
Yeah. Well, I think just understanding that ownership and taking ownership, because, once again, that employee mindset became something of a little bit of barrier for me. It was like, well, I don't know how to do this, but you've been doing it. So, it's almost like, well, why don't you just tell me? So it was one of those things, that employee is like, well, hey, I don't know this, so just tell me. And then, but at the same time, you were still telling me too. But yeah, nowadays I'm getting a little bit better. I'm moving that 1% at least.
Yeah, sometimes when you talk to your spouse and you do give them the full instructions, they ignore you. I know you ladies out there probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, anybody else experience that? You've told your partner exactly how to do something and they just still go their own route. Yeah.
That's got to be a man's trait, because I just don't understand. I hear this all the time with other men. It's like, oh, well, we just do it. We know better, I guess. I don't know, or whatever, in our head, and we just do it. Well, we're gonna do it this way. Thanks for nothing. Thanks for talking. But we don't listen. It's just this whole funny thing of just, we don't listen. And it's becoming a better listener. To every guy out there, become a better listener. Your life will be a lot better.
Beth says spousal training is real thing.
Hey, it goes two ways now. Hey, Beth, it goes two ways. Let's be honest.
And Beth, it's even more different when they're in the business with you.
Yeah.
So adding to all these complications of things, and I mean, we are getting through them, and David he did have the employee mindset. Let me focus on that a minute. He did have the employee mindset for a while. It's been about a year. He's been taking responsibility and actual ownership for about a year now. And so that put all the weight of everything on me, which was, it's like, oh yeah, why didn't you tell me that? I mean, whether I did or didn't, regardless, why didn't you tell me that? Or would wait for me to tell him what to do whenever we had already discussed a list of, hey, you're going to take care of this. And so to me, the way I am and the way I've been taught is, once I've given you the list, hey, go get it done. Just get it done. Here's the outcome we want. That's it. And instead it was like, well, why didn't you tell me you needed to do that? And I'm like, well, you got the list. And what else is there? But yeah, so he really stepped up, and that was a big thing for us. Is when, I know for me, a big relief when you actually started taking full ownership and responsibility, and I had to quit quit being like I was trying to be boss and wife and friend and everything. And
Yeah.
there was some difficulties with that.
Well, and I think, yes, and that's yes. Communication is key to everything, and that's why I'm saying everybody just needs to listen. And I'm really guilty of not listening very well. So I'm really learning how to actively listen, and I think we're getting better in our communication. At least that's what I think. I think our fights are becoming less and less because we're dealing better with our communication. So I really do feel that that's going on. But it's been kind of a road of that employee mindset of getting reprogrammed on how to actually say, hey, you know what, you've got to do all this stuff yourself now. And yeah, Heidi's there, but in reality, she really isn't. So you need to really think about how would you do it instead of how would Heidi do it, kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. Is I'm saying, how does David do this?
Yeah, because I'm one of those bosses, and I always have been, to empower my employees. I'm just like, here's the outcome we want. How you choose to get it there, as long as it's legal. Doesn't need to be legal. As long as it's legal and it works for you and your way of doing things, I really don't care how you get it done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm one of those type of people who I want to empower people. I don't want to have to sit there and double check and keep up with everything you're doing. I just want to know that it's done and I don't have to worry about it. And so that has been a real thing for us, is just being able to do that, which is really cool. And then for me, being a supportive partner for him, because sometimes I get irritated. I'm just like, okay, why don't you? We've done this a million times. Why don't you have this yet? But I really reprogrammed myself to be a supportive spouse and just sit and listen and be and like we really, and I don't even know why I hadn't tried this with him, because I've worked on it with over, I don't know how many years with my clients, but clients would get worried about things or not be able to see an outcome, and they would just be, our brains are programmed naturally, our little brain monkeys are programmed to automatically go negative first, always, because that's to protect us. That's our primal brains and everything. Right. And so with my clients, I used to, and Beth, you and I have done this a few times. We would do best case, worst case, or worst case, best case scenario is something that I work with my clients with. Whereas we envision not just the worst case that can possibly happen, and see, because 9 times out of 10, once you've envisioned what the absolute worst thing that can happen is, and of course, usually the worst thing that can happen is you could die. But
okay,
that's as bad as it can get, because once you're dead, nothing else can happen, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so normally we start with the worst case, and we go through that to make you realize that the worst case probably isn't going to happen. No matter how bad it gets, worst case probably isn't going to happen. And then I flip the switch and turn things to talk about the best case. What is the best case? And what's the absolute best of everything? And let's be honest, probably the top best case isn't going to happen as often either, but somewhere in the middle of both of those is usually what the results actually are. And I just did that, I guess, about 3 weeks ago with you.
I think it was 2 weeks, actually. It was about 2 weeks ago. And that, that was kind of a turning point for me too, as well. When you did that, we sat in the park and we took maybe 20 minutes to half an hour, and
basically a 30-minute session.
yeah, pretty much. And you just sat there and you said, okay, what are you worried about? Okay, why are you worried? And then we just did the best and worst. And then I'm like, okay, what else? And you just you brought it all out, and you kept going. It's like, okay, oh, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about that. You kept going, but we took each category and just kind of just nailed it out. And it was just sitting there. It's like, really? I mean, it's so simple, but yet you're sitting here like, duh, in a lot of ways. And I was really, really at ease after that conversation that, now I just start saying worst case. And then what came out of that too was even things that I didn't even think of, like as a solution.
Solution.
I'm just like, what? Oh yeah, we could do that. You're
Yeah.
right. I would have never even dreamed of doing something like that. And it was looking at those little nuances of solutions that I would never even thought of. And I thought that was really powerful, because I'm just like, we could do that, so I was really happy after. I was just like, all of a sudden everything was just gone. It was just this whoosh of goneness, basically, if that's a thing, whoosh of goneness. I don't know, but
We
but
can coin whatever phrases we want.
right, whoosh of goneness.
Oh, whoosh of goneness.
Yeah, whoosh.
Yeah, that's a big thing, everyone. And I really recommend, the hardest thing sometimes, I mean, you get in the situation, obviously the brain flares, you're upset, but if you can separate yourself, if you've got a partner, you've got a spouse in it, and you just sit back with empathy and just listen. Sometimes they don't need your opinions. And I mean, this is something when David, sometimes I'll go to him and I just need to vent. I don't need solutions. I don't need him to problem solve. I just need him to listen sometimes. But that's even what happened with him there, is I just literally guided him through, because he's like, oh my God, this is going to happen. And I'm like, so if it does, what does that mean? And what are you going to do about it? And but it was being empathetic, but I kept my emotion out of it, and I just listened, and then just, okay, so what? Basically is what I was asking.
Yeah.
And then well, this is going to happen. Okay, so what? And because I made sure I kept all my charged emotions or whatever out of it, we were able to do that. And at the end, we were both in a beautiful place. And it just came down to me actually listening and taking it all out of it. And that's the big thing we've done through a lot of the relationship. And I think this is probably where therapy came back in, was actively listening, taking our emotions out of it, and also I statements rather than you statements. I mean, that was the 3 biggest communication tactics that we've learned that really helped us.
Yeah. I also want to add to that. It's funny because, that was the first time you actually treated me as a client. So, it's funny because we're so, we're so together, but yet we're so not together in a lot of ways, because we do things differently when you're a spousal in a business. And so what happens is you forget that, hey, if you treat your spouse like this, all of a sudden he or she's going to kind of just say, oh yeah, and I think we forget to do that with our spouses, is treat them like you did as a client. Yeah. I think that would be another point to make, that's powerful. If you treat somebody, your spouse or even a friend, like a client, all of a sudden things kind of just, the emotions are out. You're not emotionally attached to me, and I'm not emotionally attached to you, and it just worked.
Yeah, I think that was a big thing too, and I do agree with that's a really great approach to it, because they don't get it. But just think about it. You would be yelling, well, in most cases, you would not be yelling at your client the way you might your spouse or partner. So if you just treat them like a client, then all of a sudden you're just like, I know for me, it was just like, okay, because that's what I was in my brain. I was like, okay, he's just another client.
Well, I didn't piss you off, and when I didn't put the dish in the sink, I mean, there's those little things that so if I'm a client, I don't piss you off when I don't put the dish in the sink, kind of thing. So
I was gonna say, I don't think that ever bothers me anyway.
Oh, I know. You know what I mean. It's a really general.
And then for another thing for us, I mean, a lot of what we've talked about is been, before, back when we were in Denver. So then we added another layer of complication onto our relationship when we decided to move to Portugal, a country where neither one of us spoke the language. And not only that, we moved a year earlier than planned.
Yeah.
So our original plan was that David was going to continue working in his corporate job for another year, and we were going to continue. He was going to continue bringing in the money, and we were going to save money while I was building the business on the side. And David got where he just couldn't take it no more. He had already had a taste for travel. He got, and in a lot of ways, we just, things were changing back in the States. I mean, we're not going to get into politics and things, but things were just changing massively back in the States.
Yeah.
And we just were so much happier when we had been traveling and living in Europe. So we were like, okay, we made the decision. We're going to bite the bullet without my business fully 100% up and full-time clients and everything yet, which in a sense might have been a good thing considering how much work we had to do on our visa when we got here. But
Yeah.
so we came a year early. And so here I am building a business. We're in a country where we don't know the language. We are in the middle of visa applications, registering a business in Portugal so we could live and work here. And David, of course, is trying to find remote work at that point.
Right. Yeah, that is. Yeah, it was funny because back then that was right before COVID too, and so everybody was really not into that. And then and then of course now COVID happened, and then everybody had to do it. But then they come up with new rules. Oh, you have to be in the United States, so you can't be remote over here. And it was just like, okay, now you guys, the corporate world was just really trying not to do it, and yeah, that just didn't work out. So I just started. Hey, well, I'm here. Why don't I do something with the business? So.
Yeah. And then we went through a phase 2 of where David decided he was going to potentially do his own thing. So he started graphic design and creating logos for people and stuff for a little while. And that didn't go over so well.
Well, you know what it was? It was once again the mindset of not understanding, what is involved in owning a business. Once again, back in the day, it was kind of different. I did have a business back way before you, and we had the Denver Chamber of Commerce. We'd go, we had lead meetings and networking parties, and it was all done for you. And you just showed up and met people and made money, And nowadays, or, with the online marketing, you're doing a little bit different kind of marketing. So it was a very different,
Yeah.
animal back then. So.
Yeah. So anybody here, if you've experienced similar things or you've got questions for us, go ahead and drop those in the comments. We've got a little bit of a lag going on, and we'll make sure we get those because we're going to start wrapping up here pretty soon. So any thoughts you have? How's it gone with your business, your partner, and you running the business and things? And let us know how that's been for you. And any questions for us? But yes, it's been an amazing journey. I mean, there's some difficulties, yes. I mean, I'm not even going to try to downplay that. We have definitely had emotional tolls in some areas from first not being supportive, and then we've worked through it all. It's been a really good learning experience in a lot of ways, and growth. I mean, a lot of growth.
A lot of quick growth for me, to be honest. You've been a little bit a better grower than I am. So yeah, for sure.
There's no right or wrongs here on that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
for sure not. No.
So what was the big aha moment for you that made you like 100% finally commit to being here?
Belief, I think that the belief in myself and the belief in you that yes, we can do this. And by the way, you were doing it. So you know what I mean? It was one of those things. It was like you're doing it. So it came down to, and you were really doing it. I mean, you were doing a lot of it. I mean, you were doing all of it. I mean, I would help out a little bit here and there, but you were doing all of it. And my little piece of it, I feel like it was a lot. And so understanding and taking ownership of what I do, and that's another turning point as well. And that I have to show up for me, not just you. And I think that, those are some big, powerful understanding. Hey, this isn't going to run itself. Somebody's got to be there. Somebody's got to do this. And guess what? It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beth says, I'm not sure I could take it if he was with me in the business, but maybe. Beth, it is, you know what? Here's the thing. I've done it with 2 husbands.
Oh boy.
Actually,
Oh boy.
that was probably one of the reasons I really wasn't all that. I really just wanted David to be supportive of me doing it in the day, and either he'd go get his own business or get remote work originally, because yeah, I had already done that with one and I didn't really want to do it again. I'm not going to lie. It's not the easiest. But I've done a lot of things. Now I've done a lot of things different in this one that I did not do in the first one. Like the first one, that was a whole different ballgame. That was also an abusive relationship. So there was, a lot of, where I just was a doormat in that one, to be perfectly honest. And I was working, 80, 100 hours a week. I was using work to actually avoid my home life at that point. But
Ouch.
there was so much different that I've done in this particular relationship with him coming into the business. Cause it was like, he wasn't finding remote work, and I don't know that you would have gotten to the point of truly running your own business. I'm not sure that that's the case.
And you know what? Maybe, back then, no, for sure not. No, but I do feel now is kind of a different animal. That I've seen kind of the back of I've seen behind the curtain now, and it's like, you know what? If you really want to have your own business, guess what? You're gonna be showing up. You're gonna be doing it. You're gonna say, "Hey, this is me." Buy my chicken and let's get it going. But it's every day. And it's a lifestyle. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle.
It's a habit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did set different boundaries and stuff this time that we've really tried to adhere to, so that we each have our own space. We don't share spaces. We don't share an office. We have I have my office. I can close my door. He does too. And just there, like I said, we have his sections of the business, and I pretty much try to stay out of those. And he pretty much tries to stay out of mine, unless he's learning something or that he needs. But for the most part, that's the reason I wanted him to take ownership of whatever. If he was going to be a part of the business, he needed to take ownership of that, and it was going to be his, so that I didn't have to. And that separation has helped me. I know David really hasn't done as much of it, but I don't know, maybe you have some thoughts too on this, but I know for me, it's been different with how I've handled things, because we do live together. We work together. We travel together. And I got to tell you, if you're going to bring anybody in as a business partner, or if they're going to be your spouse, your lover, your whatever, go travel with them full time for 2 or 3 months. If you don't kill each other in that, then you probably will work as business partners.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Yeah. Yeah. No, having our own space has really helped. At our first place in Lisbon, we didn't have our own spots. We didn't have our own offices. You were in the living room and I was in the living room, and it just created a lot of problems. And I see Beth has that problem with her husband being home, and it's like that. It's like, oh, you're right there. I can ask you questions, so I can just ruin your whole day, and whatever you're doing doesn't matter. And it's like, and it took me a long time to just shut up and not do, like, hey, I want to talk to you because you're sitting on the couch right in front, but you were working, and so it took me a long time to really figure that out. But having the offices and your own space has really helped that. So
it really has, yeah. So but yes, Beth, it was like that. Yeah, he could walk into the room and he'd be all doing his thing, and I'm just like, I'm recording a video.
Oh yeah, I remember. Oh yeah. I'm live, by the way.
I'm live.
Yeah, they did it a few
We
times.
only ended up with one in the underwear incident. That was in
Oh.
Valencia.
Oh, yes. So yes, the underwear incident. Yes.
It's funny. I don't even know how many lives by now. And I have seen more of the people on the lives, partners, kids, everybody else naked, no underwear, anything through the back. But I fortunately only had my own partner once.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. It's a funny story because I thought the frosted glass would keep you from seeing me, and that didn't happen.
It was the underwear incident, Beth. I had to apologize to 3 clients.
Yeah. And it's all recorded.
And none of them told me until the last one.
Oh. Yeah, that's right. Nobody told you except for the one. Yeah, that's right.
I think maybe they were, and she told me, she says, Heidi, she says, I am enjoying the view, but I thought you might like to know. That's how she started the conversation. I turned bright red. I was so embarrassed. But yeah, the big thing though is when you are in a business together, or you're building a business together, or you are just in a relationship with a partner that has a business, is just actively listening. That's the big one. And empathy, and just being willing to hear what's going on for them, because building a business is not easy. I mean, it's not always easy being an employee either. So us business owners also need to be supportive of our spouse and that what's going on with them as well, with the traditional employment. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, in a relationship, communication is key, and talking is not the only part of communication. Listening and hearing is as well. So having active space for both, giving grace for mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's a big one. Giving grace for mistakes, because I think we're all gonna be making mistakes. You make them. You've already made a lot of these mistakes, and you're like, I've already done that. So what the hell?
Well, not like that. I'm still making boo-boos now, and sometimes he holds me. And I do have to say, this is one thing. This is one more thing that hit me was. That I am held to a much higher standard because I have so much more experience than he does. And he holds me to like a pedestal standard sometimes that I can't always live up to. And that is hard occasionally as well.
Yeah.
It's created something. So just realize that just because your partner who might be building the business might have more experience than you, or they might have more experience with you even in the employment world, realize that doesn't mean they know it all and they don't make mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And yes, for sure.
That was a big one. And then for everybody is remember to celebrate the wins, even small wins. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Stop and celebrate the wins and take a time away from the business.
Yeah.
Take time away, still to nurture each other, and still, because if you don't and you don't do it deliberately, you probably aren't going to stay together. When you say that's probably a huge one for us is.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's been times when we're like, oh, I don't know about this, and it's just too much stress. But we've been able to understand. I think when you get both people on board, I think it really starts changing that dynamics. And
and what we mean by on board, it doesn't mean they have to work in your business. It just means they're being supportive of you being in the business, or if they do come on in the business, that's great as well. And then the other big self-care tactic that I've had to do too is find a support network outside of the relationship for sure. And I know David is actually doing that now that he's come into the business, but when he was very unsupportive over the years and stuff, is The big thing as a business owner is to make friends with other business owners. Like yesterday, we hosted a big networking event, and it's something I've always wanted to do. For me to host my own, because I've always been networking and stuff, because that's how I've built support networks of other business owners and friends that I can go talk to who get what I'm doing and the whole time. And now I'm encouraging David to do the same thing. He's making friends with some of the more new ones up and coming, so they relate to where he's at and stuff. And it really helps with not feeling isolated and just having support when your partner doesn't get it, and it happens.
Yeah. Support. All around. I think that's the biggest thing, is just support, regardless if you don't understand or believe in it. Just support them in what they're doing, and go and let them go for it. And if you just sit back and relax, it's gonna happen, and just let them go.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I bet you would like that.
We're going to leave it on that. David, I'm going to come back to you for one final thought here in a minute. And just speaking of networking events, yesterday went absolutely amazing. We had 22 incredible people live. Miss Beth, who's here, was there as well. Just come join us for the next one. Come start building your support network. This isn't just about finding clients and stuff like that. It's also about building a support network out of business owners who get you and what you're doing. So the next one's coming up on June 26th. We'll drop the link for that. They're free. You just have to show up and come and just network and make new friends and just be supportive. And yesterday's was just absolutely incredible, right?
No, it was. Oh yeah, for sure. It was a lot of fun. It was fun going through all the little breakout rooms. It was like, hey, you doing? Hey, see you later. Bye. Hey.
We did like 3-minute each speed dating.
Yeah. It was like speed dating for sure, but it was a lot of fun. So I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, so the next one's coming up. So we'd like to invite you all to join us. Amazing service providers and coaches. Incredible environment. So come join us, come talk to us. David, what's one final thought you want to leave us with today?
You know what? If you want to do this, it's not for the faint of heart. And you know what? You've got to open your mind and actually do the work and understand that you're the one that the business is relying on. It's not just Heidi or anybody else, or the person that says is the business owner. It's, if you're going to be part of a business, you need to be part of that business and take that ownership of actually being part of the business and showing up and doing it consistently.
Yeah, and that doesn't even mean if you actually are in the business, but just if you're in the relationship, you just be a supportive spouse and be there and support. So dropped a ton of tips today. If you guys have questions catching the replay, let us know. Drop them in the comments. We'll come back and get them answered. And thank you so much for Miss Beth and Sarah for joining us live. Anybody else who was here that didn't comment, we're so grateful for you all. And I hope this helps everyone with some understanding from this insider view of what it's like. Being a business owner with either a non-supportive spouse or being in business with your spouse, and you can take away some of these tips to help your relationship be that much better. And thank you all, and guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week.
All right.